What's that?
Any particular magic trick?
Da 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 da. Something like that.
I've heard about it so many times.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, he's warming up.
Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Well, how do I do this?
Show your face.
Da 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 da
The very first bread and puppet circus, I saw you and
All
Paul
from-
together.
Yeah.
The two of you together and interacting with each other.
Yeah.
I remember I was in tears laughing so hard when I saw that Ben puppet. That was one of the highlights. Another highlight was Paul Zaloom's La Magique de Plastique. Remember that show?
Plastic.
He had all this plastic junk and did a whole show with it.
He's still doing it.
He's still doing it. I wonder if he's got into microplastics yet.
Yeah,
He has?
that's his latest video release. Santa encounters microplastics in the Pacific.
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Is it online?
Yeah,
I gotta look that up.
I'll send you a thing
Oh, thank you.
if I remember.
Big gift.
Microplastics haven't gotten me. So now that we're here in public being recorded, Sue Bettman's boyfriend actually is a longtime worker for the Vermont Department of Waste Management. And he's actually involved in all kinds of activities to both theorize and actually put into practice ways to minimize microplastics in the waste stream. And so I'm hereby committing to send an email to Paul Zaloom saying you need to work with this guy on the solutions of the problems rather than dwelling in the eternal woe is me cycle of bread and butter.
Sounds great.
Now I have witnesses, so I have to do it.
We'll hold you to it.
Yeah, we got it.
I could make a copy of this part of the video and send it to Paul.
You can. You may do that. I hereby authorize you to blackmail me. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. You may beat me to it, actually.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no. It's altogether possible. Yeah. Yeah, so Rick Winston said that he was on the first word of mouth Stations Across tour. Was anybody else here on that?
To Emmanuel Church in
To
Boston.
Emmanuel Church, and he said that afternoons before the show, we'd go out and play Hallelujah in the Boston Public Garden, which I totally had no memory of.
What year was that?
I think it was 1973. Because I got there in 71, and there wasn't any Sacred Heart singing, and it might have started in the summer or the fall of 71, but it took a while to get integrated into Schumann's consciousness. So I think the Stations was either the first one in 72 or 73. And I figured it out once, but I forgot.
And that's what what you were there, right? Because he talked about meeting Poppy Gregory at Emmanuel at that time.
Yeah, Poppy Gregory had already been doing Shape Note Sings in Boston.
In Boston, yeah.
There was kind of a rotating one with, sometimes it was at her house, and
Her
then
house was a major.
there was a place called Sandy's Music on Mass Ave, Central Square, and that was an instrument store. But they would have us sing, and you know more about it than I do, probably.
No, yeah, just vaguely remember Sandy's, but I didn't spend a lot of
Yeah.
time.
But it seems like there was another venue as well, but I can't remember what it was.
Was Alan Troxler involved in those, or
I don't know. I remember Alan from Plainfield and being in the living room at Kate Farm, and he and Larry and people were singing this weird stuff. And I'm like, it's not Bach.
That's weird Christian stuff. I remember
remember singing in a house in the Plainfield Village, like every week. going
Yeah,
there.
people said that there's a thing at Allen's.
I think
like
it was at
behind
Allen
the
Drexler's,
bookstore.
yeah.
That's
Right.
where I got introduced to
Behind
it.
the
Right
bookstore.
behind the church there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Allen's.
So,
And I had not a clue about sight singing.
yeah.
And I was staying at the Ravens' house. I don't know what, they were away or something. And I have this very clear memory of having a book in my hand and sitting at their picnic table and trying to figure out da 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 da, you know, learning how to read, singing from the Singapore book.
Well, you've done better than I did.
It's a real process.
I remember when you were at a manual, whenever word of mouth was doing anything, it seemed like we would go. And you would help us set up something in a manual. I remember doing several, just concerts. there.
I have a memory of that
Just
too.
concerts, just music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You
yeah.
had one in the basement there.
What's that?
You had the whole one in the basement there.
Yeah, I had the basement. I was the third puppet theater at Emmanuel Church. It was a period of time when, as the minister explained to me, all the churches in the back bay of Boston had a different sort of mission. And theirs was to the arts. And another one was a peace church, and they all had different little things to hang their hat on. And the first theater there was the Théâtre de Blé Noir, which was the Black Wheat Theater of Claude Roche and Susan Fogarty. And then the next theater there was the Stomachache Street Theater, which was Murray Levy's theater. And they were there when I got there, and I saw my first bread and puppet show, which was Fire, that they did a version of. And Emmanuel had 4 different simultaneous arts programs. They had a classical music thing that did a different Bach cantata every week.
Yes,
I remember that, yeah.
And they had Brother Blue, the dancing, singing story, who was the poet laureate of Cambridge or whatever. And they had Mark Harvey doing a jazz program. He was a minister and a trumpet player. He still is, actually. And so they would have a weekly jazz program. And then they had puppet theater because it was mobile and didn't have to have lights and all this setup and crap. And then I was the third group in there, and then Sarah Petey was the most recent. And
She's been
enduring
there
group
forever.
She's been there not quite forever, because I was there before forever. But it's close to forever.
She's there now.
It's a long time she's there now. Yeah, so it was easy to get stuff set up, and there were spaces. There's the big, hall for Duke Ellington and,
Yeah.
hot shots and stuff. And sometimes, well, Bread and Puppet played in there too. And there was chapel where we played a lot, and then
Yeah.
there was a library, which is just an open space. So, yeah, the minister's whole point of view was, the church was 3 doors down from the Ritz. And
Right.
he said, well, unless I get 2 or 3 calls from the Ritz complaining, I don't feel like I'm doing my job.
Wait, and what was his name?
Al Kershaw.
Al Kershaw, right.
Yeah,
Didn't we have a big Passover Seder in their dining hall?
that's what Rick said.
Was
in,
it with us?
in the upstairs,
Yeah,
over the library, which I totally forgot about that space.
I think it was with all of us, yeah.
Yeah, Rick said everybody's there, and he said Schumann was the officiant, and he had to ask every once in a while what to do next. What? That's what Rick said, he just left, so call him up before he crashes. Yeah. That was pretty fun.
Quadrivium gave very good concerts there too.
Say again?
The Quadrivium gave
Yeah,
concerts
yeah, a
there,
lot of
too.
people had concerts there. Yeah, they were really active.
Yeah.
I think in the spring of, maybe it was the spring of '73 or the fall of '72, when I was a student at Middlebury College, Bread and Puppet came and did the Stations of the Cross in a gymnasium, and I volunteered to sing, in the chorus.
Yep.
But that was one of the.
I think that's when I met you.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's a story. Here, let me get a little closer.
But that was.
Because you organized the performance to happen there.
Yeah, I helped, yeah. That was unusual.
We're waiting for more.
But it doesn't seem like churches do that
Oh.
much. Go ahead.
No, then later there was the Stations of the Cross in Windsor State Prison, and
No.
Bucky, he's from this racing car family from around Middlebury area, Dragon, Bucky
Oh, yeah.
Dragon.
Oh, I remember that.
So,
name.
and he had been arrested for like holding up a U.S. mail truck in east of Middlebury. Like he was a robber, but his his other people in his family were like stock car racers. They were all stock car racers, but he was in jail. But I knew that because I lived in Middlebury, and we went and played in Windsor State Prison, because it was a time, like for many years with Bread and Puppet, we would, like with you, and we played a lot of prisons, like you could get grants
Because I was there, I guess.
in Pennsylvania and
Pennsylvania,
Vermont.
yeah.
That was like a whole thing, was playing in prisons. There was money for that, but we played in Windsor State Prison and they had to go in and get checked out. But I remember Bucky Dragon was sitting in the front row, like petting a cat or something.
I remember a kitten too, like all these
And
prisoners.
then we were doing
playing-
Stations of the Cross. Like that's totally crazy. I don't
But
know
it's
what they
totally
thought.
But it was, they didn't throw stuff, you know.
No. It was
About the same
well
time,
received.
there was an article in one of the Boston independent papers about an improv group that got a grant to tour prisons. And it was all based on, give us a suggestion and then you do this little bit, you know. And so they finished their intro and they said, give us a topic. And the guy said, sex.
Sure.
And so they did their little sex improv, and then they said, okay, and give us a topic. The guy said, sex. And then, and then they couldn't finish their show because they didn't have enough cute bits about sex. And my recollection is that the Bread and Puppet shows at least didn't get that response, you know. People watched it and hung in
I
there.
can't imagine how a kitten would respond to all those cans getting thrown around the floor.
Yeah, well, there's that. But they probably liked that. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember that performance really strongly, and I was the person that would get up first after the disciples all went down and start
Oh.
singing "The Lord is Risen."
You did the
And I
Mary
remember
Alice,
remember
yes,
being
on our
so nervous, like I'm standing up all by myself, there's all these prisoners in front of me, and I'm singing this little.
but they've already been disarmed. in
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, it was fine, but I still remember that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Well, I think at the time, Windsor was Vermont's maximum security prison.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And there was a piece in the newspaper that prisoners had escaped from the maximum security prison by piling picnic tables, one on top of the other, until they could walk over the wall.
Nobody noticed. Maximum
At least they didn't like get
Vermont
inside a
style
puppet or
maximum.
something.
That had already
Like
been
in a
done.
box, yeah.
That had
right.
already been
Isn't it
done.
right in the middle of a town? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not out on
a
the.
pretty small
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
I don't think it exists anymore either. I don't think
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
The prison, you mean?
in Windsor, yeah, I don't think it
Yeah, I don't
does.
think so.
That's where BPR started.
In prison? You never know. You know, maximum security, little radios and stuff, communicating with the
Oh,
outside.
that could be the start of it.
Coded transmission, this is VPR, broadcasting from Windsor Prison, send files and guns.
I remember we were doing the station, you and I had this controversy whether it was the young Vic or the old Vic, and you were right, it was the young Vic.
The young.
The younger.
And,
Yes.
and it was a tour, like Larry would organize these tours like through
Yes.
England, and then like, how did he do that? I don't know, he just did it. And nobody, there wasn't very good publicity.
Publicity.
Yeah, and and I think we decided if there were fewer people in the audience than in the show, and there were like 16 of us, then we wouldn't do the show.
Right.
And we canceled the show, but one of the reservations that night was from Dustin Hoffman. So we had missed a chance to play for Dustin Hoffman. But it would have been
I
for
remember that
only.
differently, actually.
Oh yeah.
I remember the vow to not play for fewer people than were in the
Yeah.
company. But my understanding was missing Dustin Hoffman was because he was intending to come, had the reservation, but the union,
Oh.
That's
a
what I
union in
remember.
the theater went on strike. And so the
Right.
theater was actually closed through no fault
okay.
of our own when the great, and
Oh,
our
yeah.
room was grip shit.
And we had no, because there was no like lighting and stage crew or
Yeah.
something, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I remember.
Oh, that's that.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
and the tube or whatever, the underground, with all kinds of things were,
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
yeah,
And
I
that's-
remember that.
We played at Dartington Friends College. that
Dartington
too.
Hall.
Dartington Hall.
Yes.
Hall. That was great. And we remember we played. We did the Stations of the Cross in Paris, and I remember, and that was like really weird. And I remember someone walked out and she said, like in the middle of the show, fumeur de hashish américain, like we were like, who the fuck are these weird hippies, like hashish smokers, hashish smokers, but like that, it didn't go well, like the set
Yes.
old, like the Sacred Harp, and like they knew Bread and Puppet from like '68 and doing Fire, and all of a sudden there was all this Christian stuff.
What is your story?
Oh,
Turn the camera around now.
oh, okay. I remember one of my funniest moments with Stations of the Cross was before we even went on tours at the Goddard Hay Barn. And I was playing the trumpet, and we had the red devil outfits with the pieces of cloth coming down. And I had to play the trumpet at a certain point. It was like a cue, and I'd play. And but my red ribbons got stuck in the trees of paradise. I couldn't lift up my arm to get the trumpet to my lips. And then I thought, well, I'll have to put my lips down the trumpet. So I went like this, and this elastic mask came. And Peter got really upset. Andrew, where's the? It's your turn. You must come in now. And I couldn't do anything. And finally he says, "Oh, just take it away. You know, let's do the next." So when they came to take the trees of paradise, I went flying with it because I was so entangled with it.
But that was our Ave Maris.
That was Ave Maris Stella that we had red devils.
Oh right, that's right. Ave Maris Stella.
Get it straight, you're on tape, dude.
Oh, I know. I made a mistake. It was Ave Maris Stella.
I remember in Ave Maris Stella we were playing in Berkeley at Berkeley Rep, and then we went out to dinner with Jane Fonda and I think with Tom Hayden, right? And I remember sitting in a booth in a restaurant with Jane Fonda and Tom. I have no idea.
That was you guys, yeah, Stephen was the one who was like, who's this person hugging me? Oh,
Kissing me.
kissing me.
Yeah,
that's
she
right,
kissed all of
that's
us. I
right.
remember.
I was the first one into wherever the thing was, you know, and this person, this woman, goes running up to me with these arms out. Like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. He gives me this big hug and kisses me right on the lips and stuff.
Oh really?
And it was
Yeah.
Jane Fonda.
And it was Jane Fonda.
Holy Toledo.
You just upstaged me. I was so proud because she kissed me on the cheek.
Learned from me not to do that.
I got hid in the corner, I just couldn't deal with it. Jane Fonda, I said, I'll move away. Have her bypass me.
But I think she asked for you though.
Yeah.
Mark, I remember you saying, going back to stations when we were rehearsing stations right at the beginning, that doing stations on tour in Europe was not going to be a really fun experience, and we should do sideshows also.
Well, there you go.
You were right.
You were right.
What? Wait. You had more fun doing sideshows than doing the show?
I had fun doing the show, no, but I think the audience enjoyed sideshows more than
I
the
see.
stations.
I remember doing the Victor Hara thing in Naples.
Oh,
after
right.
Trudy, you guys
Oh
had
my
had to
God.
negotiate with the city government to even do anything at all.
Huh.
They had shut down the PLO tent, and we did the Victor Hara thing in this courtyard with these guards standing around. It's like,
They're up on the balcony around surrounding us at the top.